Well, welcome back. This is our Pro Athlete interview series, and this is brought to you by the Family Office Club. And today we have David. And David, how are you doing today?
I'm doing wonderful. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, well, thanks for coming. And in case this is your first time, either checking out the podcast or maybe your first time seeing us at an event, or maybe you're one of our 13 million social media followers, we do these deep dives, whether it's with dentists, doctors, investors, or professional athletes like David. And a lot of times we'll bring them up on stage, we'll do these podcast interviews to sort of find out where they came from and how they got to where they are now. And that's what we wanted to do by bringing David here and sort of to find out how he became in the top 1% of the professional athlete space, but now in his professional career after. And so, David, just thank you for taking the time and being a part of the show today.
Oh, you're very welcome. Look forward to helping serve. That's my new mission now, to help share all the great gifts that I was given to other people. So I'm ready to rock.
I love it. Well, we're ready to rock right with you. And I guess why don't we get started? Why don't we find out a little bit about what you did in the professional athlete space? And that way we give a little bit of background of sort of where you came from and what you did sort of up to today.
Yeah, so in a nutshell, I got very lucky, to be honest, and to grow up in a world where I'm a third generation pro athlete and a sixth generation college graduate. So champions on both academic side and the athletic side. My dad played for the New England Patriots, grandfather on my mother's side played for the Boston Bruins, the big bad Bruins. So and my dad played against the '85 Bears. So I was around all those sports champions growing up. I was born on a game day. In fact, I have the game ball. It's still have it.
Oh, really?
Still have the game ball right here. The old school ones, we got to have the paint, on the front. But I was given that when I was born. I was born on a game day. Patriots beat the Saints, so I figure I'm good luck.
Yeah.
And that's the athletic side. Academic side, I have 3 college presidents in the family. Currently, my uncle is the president of Rutgers, so I'm a huge Scarlet Knights fan now. Go RU. But I was born in that world with so many champions that helped lead, that helped shape, that really made a huge impact on not just their teams, but it went far beyond that. And the lessons that they gave me and gifts, they always said it's not fully complete unless it's shared. So part of my new mission now is to share that, like I said. But my journey, when I first started off, you'd think with this great family legacy that I'd be a shoo-in. In fact, I got rejected by over 850 Division I colleges and over 10,000 scouts.
Wow.
A lot of rejection,
Yeah.
And so I had to find my own way. Even with all the greats I grew up around, Bo Jackson and Bobby Orr and all these superstars that were around me my whole life. Now it was my turn. Everybody's saying, who are you? You're not, big enough. You're not fast enough. You're too small. You don't have your grandfather's toughness. You don't have what it takes in sports. Maybe you should do the academic side. So many champions over there too, which wouldn't have been a bad move. But, something in me was like, you know what? I still want to do this. So I decided to walk on to University of Maryland. Didn't get a scholarship for, it took me about a year and a half. And, when I first got there, I was getting laughed at because I was a triple digit. I was one of the 336s. Adam Podlish and Alan Grantham are the other 2 36s there. I couldn't eat with the team. New dining hall facility. Can't go if you're a walk-on. So I had to run to get my food. And there's so many other stories that I could tell you. But I came in as a linebacker with a vision and a dream anyway. Weighed about 187 pounds, way too small to be a linebacker. You got to be around 250, otherwise you're just going to get tossed around, which I did, so I got laughed at in the beginning. Fast forward, 3 years following my vision, lots of hard work. And in the middle of that, more getting laughed at, walked by like I wasn't even there. I became one of the best in the country. And that didn't happen by accident. That was by clear and proper design. And that's part of what I share now as a motivational speaker, as, I have a book coming out soon. So I'm in that expert space where I'm sharing some of my insight, sharing some of my wisdom, sharing some of the secrets, the tactics that I use to go from somebody who's getting laughed at, couldn't eat, all of the above as a supreme underdog. Now people are asking how you did it.
Mm-hmm.
And now people are, I found out later, people were dropping out of school to come to the University of Maryland to try to duplicate what I had done. I mean, we were, one of the best defenses in the country, beat Florida State for the first time in school history. We were doing, the beginning, early 2000s, Maryland was doing pretty well. ACC championship, Orange Bowl, all these things. But all that happened, and there's a blueprint. And, like they always say, greatness, success leaves clues.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of those crumbs, not only did I follow from all the greats that came before me, but I left some there as well. To now, so many other walk-ons were able to get an opportunity. People that dropped out of, their colleges to come were now able to do it. And it became, I'm used to being behind the scenes, nobody knew who I was. And now, I'm out in front of, thousands of cameras, people's stories, Washington Post, all these things. And they're asking me to share. You need to share your story, your journey. It's inspiring, all these other great things. And I, was one of the guys in the locker room. I was pretty quiet, didn't really say much, said, hey, I'm going to show you and lead you by action. There's not too many words in there. But as I grew and matured as a leader, and just listening to people around me saying, you've got to do it over and over and over again, I was like, let me take this seriously. Let me study this. Let me figure out what other speakers I could learn from. I went to, boot camps and seminars where it was 2-3 days of some of the greatest speakers in the world that did TED Talks that have millions of views, and learn the art of being on stage, learn the art of, using your body language and your voice and your tonality and all these different things that not only helped in my speaking world, but my overall life in general. When it comes to skilling up, it added a lot of things. So that's kind of where I'm at now. That's the kind of funnel really, really quickly into this. To give you a little context, who I am, where I come from, what I stand for, and what value that I want to bring to you, the listener, and everybody else I come in contact with.
No, I think that's a great story. A lot of times I feel like a lot of stories where it's, all right, this is the one thing I only had sports. I had nothing to fall back on. I didn't have any family, or like you had some family that you could fall back on, or let's say you had the academic side that perhaps you could fall back on. Like what was it that you're able to do? I mean, I know we talk about visualization practices and, mental mindsets, but as much as you were a walk-on, many people in your same shoes could have just walked right off, right? They could have decided, you know what? I don't get to eat with a team. I just can't do this. I'm not going to be able to put on the pounds. I'm not going to stay in the mental mindset that you need to do to actually stay on the field. So what was, I know sometimes it might just be, this is who I am as a person, but is there anything that you sort of can look back and say, oh, it was these things that I definitely did that made me like stick to it, that maybe not choose this other direction that would have been probably easier if you would have gone that other route?
So much easier. I mean, at 18 years old, you're getting tossed around the field. You're not getting into practice. I was on the 6th team, so I couldn't even get into practice some days.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I mean, I've been in Arizona. I've lived in Miami. Probably the hottest I've ever been is just sitting in full equipment, just watching practice for like an hour and a half. That's back when you could do doubles back to back to back. So it was miserable. Everybody asks, do you ever think about quitting, taking the easy route? Hell yeah, it did. I thought about the second day. I looked up when I didn't get into practice, and then we have to watch film of practice, and I got to watch it all over again. And didn't see anything I did except stand there and bake. I was like, man, this sucks.
Mm-hmm.
Why am I here? And I found, I reverse engineered it. When people ask me why and how, I was like, let me really give people some takeaways that they can use to help them in whatever situation they are. And I go all the way back to the foundation. I used to stay up late at night like most kids, and I would just dream, and I wouldn't have any outside noise affecting it. I would take my journal, take quiet time. I would block time almost and just write down exactly what I wanted to do. Didn't get to pick, I didn't get the scholarships everybody else, a lot of people in the family did. So I got lucky enough to where I could choose where I want to try this. I could pick my location. So I got very detailed, went visited the University of Maryland, had a feeling, I was like, this is the place that I'm going to be. And that foundational piece, going back in pen and pad and writing down exactly where you want to go. And, yes, that's part of a vision, but I do trainings on this. I do half and full day trainings. There's actually 5 steps to properly crafting a vision, where I share the 5 steps that I did. And the first one I just shared with you, as simple as taking a pen and pad. And one of the things I've learned as matured as a speaker and as a trainer, as an executive coach, you have to distill a lot of wisdom and give it to people in easy, actionable steps. So that's what I did, where I took my 5 steps and I said, if you follow these 5, you're going to have a properly crafted vision that's going to allow you to have that forward lean and pull in life to get you past all those obstacles. Because if I didn't have a promised land, a vision of something greater out there that got me excited, why am I doing all this stuff? Why am I getting up and working out early before the team? Why continue to get laughed at every day? When you're in college, this is supposed to be your golden days. This is supposed to be the most fun, you ever had your 4 years. One of the best experiences of people's lives. Why is it miserable for me? And I had to learn on my own some of these techniques. I didn't go to my family and run to them and say, hey, help me all the time with this, this, and this. I wanted to kind of go through my own journey and carve out my little identity and my piece. So a lot of the stuff I learned on my own, and techniques I developed from, what they taught me, and then I molded it and modified it. Now I teach that. And visualization, one of the most important things you do. Having a vision is one of the most important decisions in your life that you can make. And so many people take it casually. So many people, oh, we'll have a vision board party, and they're putting up all these things that have nothing to do with them personally. They want to put up, Arnold Schwarzenegger and these sports cars and all these things. Like, well, what does it mean? And do you even want that? And when you get to that destination, are you going to be proud of who you are? There's so many different ways that doesn't get taught. And a lot of times it's not a good or bad vision. It's trained or untrained a lot of times. And I tell people, your vision should be so clear that I could be able to ask you, what does the environment smell like? And you should be able to tell me exactly what it smells like. The sounds, the colors, the shapes. I should be able to jump in your life and say, hey, for this piece of your life, for this architecting, you're architecting your life as you go through this. Otherwise, you're just taking whatever life throws at you. Nobody wants to do that. We want to architect and build and continue to visualize the life we want to live. So if I asked you, if I jumped through the lens or into your living room, wherever you're watching this or listening to this, and I sat down and said, hey, explain to me, like a movie director, what your vision of your bigger future is, whether that's your personal life, whether that's your work life, whatever that is, you should be able to explain it to me in such detail that I can picture everything. That we can make a movie, we can make a storyboard, baby, of exactly what you want to do. And until it's that clear, it's not going to give us that forward lean, that forward pull that pulled me past all those obstacles. Getting laughed at, all that stuff seemed like a mountain when I first saw it, when I first walked up to it. But the more I worked on my vision, the more I did the visualization, the more I, read and continue to skill up and educate myself, the stronger I became mentally. Man, that obstacle became so small that I could step over it and say, hey, even if you asked me back then, what are you doing here? Would have looked straight at you, straight into the camera. And I said, not only am I going to play here, but I'm going to be one of the greatest that ever did it. And I wouldn't have blinked. And that was only because of the vision, which is, to me, a foundational piece of who you are. My foundation was so strong that the storms of life, the catastrophes of life, the naysayers, the doubters, the haters, all the people that try to chip away at me, my foundation and my vision was so strong. I'm heading there anyway. I'll see you at the top. All these things that are happening to me now, yes, I might not have the skills yet. I might not have the toughness yet. I might not have the size and the strength and the speed yet. But man, if I get enough time, it's a coming. And when it comes, you're going to see me rise to the top, and I'm going to wave to you on the way. And if you got to compete against me, you better have a vision that's sharper than mine. You better have something else out there, because I ain't stopping. I'm going to the top, baby.
So how do you, so I guess a good question would be, so you can visualize and you can write down these things. And let's say for yourself at home with your book and your journal, let's say you're like, I know
Yeah.
exactly what my vision is. How are
Mhm.
you able to, let's say, block out someone else's vision of you? So whether that's the coaches, the players, some sports newscaster that's watching you, all of them are going to have a different perspective, and you might know where you want to go and you might have that visualization, but they're the
Mhm.
ones that, let's say, didn't see you on that video as you guys are watching the plays, but you know that you could be on that lineup. Like, how are you able to sort of shield out? And maybe it's just like, just going back and just rehoning. This is my visualization. This is my goals. Like, how are you able to sort of block out those other things, or how do you make sure those don't affect your own vision?
Yeah, I want to answer that in this way because I think the root of that is how do you deal with other people's opinion, other people's hate, other people's, the way they see the world and how you fit in their vision.
Mm-hmm.
Um, First of all, if you read the book, there's a book, Top Five Regret of the Dying, and one of them is I wish I spent more time building a life of my own, that I didn't listen to the people telling me what I should do. And to me, it's like, hey, man, we get one shot and we're all participants in the game of life. I don't care if you're an athlete or not. This is our time. And I don't know about you, but I want to carve out and craft the life that excites me, that I feel like can give, my skills and what I want to do and the impact that I want to have, not anybody else's. So first, that's a mindset. The second thing is how do you deal with them, the opinions, the hate, and everything else? I'll share this with you, and this is a technique that I used.
Okay.
And if I didn't use this, I would have been one of the most miserable people that you'd ever met if I took everything in, all the hate. Because, like I said in the beginning, I was getting laughed at a lot. And when you're an athlete, it sucks to get laughed at. I was getting laughed at almost daily. I was getting embarrassed all the time. It was not fun. This was in my career. This was pretty much rock bottom. When you're a bench warmer in practice, it's hard to get lower than that.
Mm-hmm.
So here I was, and all this criticism and negativity, and people walking right by me and using me as a tackling dummy, or all these other ways that, this guy doesn't even really matter. Let's give him a triple digit because who cares? In those moments, and I share this with people, when you get hate, when you get other people's opinions, you get things that, that sting sometimes. A lot of people will tell you to forget about it or ignore the haters, which doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't work for me. You can't ignore some of those things. We're all human. We have emotions. And all the personal development, reading, everything I do, I'm still a human at the end of the day. There's still things that are going to bother me. Now, the time that, I get over it is way shorter now, and it's done much more graceful. But what I'll tell you is this, and here's what you do. It's a simple technique called throw it in the bag, and I invite you to try this. If there's a moment where you just feel the hate coming, or you feel someone dissed you, you feel off your game, whether that's personal life, work life, doesn't matter. Something's really bothering you. I invite you to take that moment, remember it. What people almost take a screenshot, a snapshot of that moment. But I want you to take that and visualize taking it, putting it in a bag, tying it shut, and you're going to move that to the side. So you're feeling it for a moment, and then we're going to say, okay, this is happening, all these feelings, I'm going to take that, store it for later. So because if you don't, you're going to waste energy that you need to get to where you want to go. You're going to waste energy of the day. There's so many energy vampires out there that this is something that you have to do for your own sanity and protection sometimes. I know everybody listening can relate to that. So what I did in those moments, I was like, okay, take that moment, feelings I feel, I'm not going to ignore them. The tension or the anger that's building up, I'm going to save that for when I need it. And when I would go work out, when I didn't feel like doing it that day, whenever I needed that little energy boost or even a rocket boost, if I was doing well, I said, man, I'm going to that bag and opening it. I'm remembering all the feelings, everything that was said, what the person was wearing, the look on their face, and re-feel that energy. And that's going to give me that fuel, that dark energy to keep going, even when I don't feel like it, even when everybody else is quitting, even when it's hard. Because it's
Mm-hmm.
going to get hard, it's going to get tough. But when you can use your energy, your power when you need it, man, that gives you such a competitive advantage than someone else that is letting everybody else shoot them with their arrows of hate, and now they're leaking. And you know, it's your energy, it's your power, it's your motivation, your positive feelings about who you are in the day. They're letting everybody else just shoot them and let it, you know, drip out. I'm telling you to take those arrows, put them in a bag, save it for when you need it, and man, that'll give you energy at any point.
Hmm. Now, does that bag start having less and less effect, and you have to fill it with new ones, or how do you use that bag?
With, you know, the way social media is and everybody else having their opinion today, that bag can fill up real quick.
That is true. That's true.
And the important thing is, you know, yes, this is a blueprint outline of how I used it. I
Hmm.
tell people to take that and add to it, add your pieces to it. Don't be like, you see so many people every day, oh, this is the new style, let me do this. Or this is what this group does, and I want to be part of that. So let me dress like this, get these shoes, get this water bottle, all these things that people are just copying each other over and over again, which is fine. I get that. But always add a little flavor of your own to that. So, you know, you're more of an individual, you're a little more free thinker, you're a little bit, you know, you're not following all the time, that you're always adding in a little bit of part of your leadership into that. So that technique, throw it in the bag, use that as a foundation, but add little pieces to it. What do you want to put in there? How much? You know, is there a point where it's getting too much and you got to let it out? What are some of the healthy ways you like doing it?
Yep.
I've always advised to do it, you know, working out in some kind of way, because how can you skill up no matter what profession you're in? You work on your health and energy, you know, protecting your energy. Doesn't matter what age you are, you know, but again, we're only given one body, only get one shot. It's up to us to protect it, to preserve it, to continue as you get older, to take care of it, to do the rehabs, to do the strengthenings, so you have more energy, so you can enjoy more of this thing we call life.
No, I like it. I like it. Well, let's do this. What's a $1 million lesson, or what's like the most costliest financial mistake that you've personally made? And you could just give a general one, or if you want to give a very practical, specific example. But for
Yeah.
any professional athletes that are out there, like, what's a $1 million lesson that you learned perhaps the hard way, or a financial mistake that you're like, man, I wish I didn't make this, but don't make the same mistake.
Yeah, they all come down to the same thing, and that's just, I reached a point in life or my profession or financially where I'll give you two things. One is when I got to a point where I feel like I made it,
Hmm.
that was a danger zone for me. That was $1 million mistake in those areas, because now I have no vision of, you know, what I want to head to next. And it's nice, yeah, when you reach the top of a mountain, to celebrate, to eat the food, enjoy the riches that are up there. You don't want to be there too long. First time I got there, I was there for way too long, and I started to decline.
Mm.
And those are moments in my life that I can't get back.
Hmm.
Moments where I wasn't on my A game, or I wasn't taking care of myself the best way, or I wasn't doing the research, I wasn't learning, I wasn't serving people around me the best way I could, I wasn't paying attention to a lot of the foundational pieces that got me to that point. And what I always tell people is, when you're out for self-mastery, you when you're about to make it to that next vision, or when you're there, you immediately start crafting a vision for another future.
Hmm.
And if you don't, you're going to make a lot of mistakes. You're going to live in a place where I call the land of mediocrity. I give this analogy. I said, you're either on the field of life, the court, the ice, you know, your office, whatever it is, professionally, whether you want to relate it to your family life, you're on the field of life, that field, and it's your job to go out there, summon the best of you are, become the best, share the best, give the best, and live and lead the best quality of life you can. That includes having a great foundation, so the life's not knocking you, pinballing you all over the place. So when you're there, you have a vision, you're on top of your A game, you're kicking ass, taking names, you're making wise decisions, you're connecting with the right people, you're not ignoring your health, you're not ignoring your positive relationships, because that can easily get burned when you're heading up those mountains of greatness or success or excellence. You're on the field of life and you're playing full out, and you don't have a vision of greatness. life hands you a ticket to go sit in the stands and watch. And in those stands, it's very, very comfortable and it's very deceiving. Oh, you're here, you made it. Congratulations. Let me pull up a chair. What do you want to eat? What do you want to for the 5-course meals? What do you want to drink with that? Can I get you a pillow? Are your nails done? All the things that are in your comfort zone. And man, you don't have a vision for a bigger future. You made it, and now you're just sitting kind of coasting. Somewhere deep inside, man, you feel like something's off. And you feel like, man, I just I don't have that juice or energy in the morning. I'm doing all these great things. Everybody thinks, I'm the man. I got the $1 million smile. I got the clothes, the house. Everything's going good. Something deep down is chipping away at you. And that's what I call the stands of life, the land of mediocrity. And I've been on both. I've been on the fields and the stands a lot more than I'd like to admit. And those are moments in my life where I'm going to have regrets, forever. Those are moments I can't get back. I was like, man, if I could have just gotten off the field, out of the stands, back on the field of life, start reconnecting with, my vision of who I want to be, what I want to learn, who I want to be around, what I want to share and do. I didn't have that. And that's when I made the $1 million mistakes. That's when I made the time mistakes and relationship mistakes and all the other mistakes you can make. Man, I was there and I was in it, in the land of mediocrity. And there's a quote I like that says, mediocrity prevails when good men and women do nothing. And to me, what that means is when you do nothing, you're in your comfort zone, you don't have a vision of your bigger future, no matter what age you are in life, you're in the stands of mediocrity. Nobody wants to be there. That's when you're making all the mistakes. And that would be my lesson, is to always have a vision of your bigger future. If you're asking the question, is this, you've made it to the top of the mountain, you're asking, is this it? That's a dangerous place to be. Or you come to retirement, you're like, man, what am I going to do now? That's a dangerous place to be if you stay there for too long. And, you're just getting, especially as athletes, most people's career, you can do that the rest of your life. As athletes, your career is done in your 20s or 30s. And, there's so many people that get stuck there, or remember when they get stuck in that conversation that isn't the best all the time. So even if you've had an amazing career, you're top of that mountain, always have another one in the future. I forget who said this, but it's another great quote I like that says, when life's end comes to meet you, let it find you, reaching and climbing towards that next mountain instead of rolling, on down an old one.
I like it. Well, normally we ask people, for like a final question, like, how do you, become a 0.1%er in your field, whether professionally as an athlete or now professionally, let's say as a speaker or investor, what they're doing now. And I feel like we've covered a lot of that to sort of show what you've used, what practices you use, visualization techniques, some of those different stages. I know we only covered a couple, but I know you do trainings on all 5 of them. And I think you're coming out to a couple of our events that we have out of the Super Summits in New York and out in Florida. But do you have any last tidbits of advice that you'd give to any athletes now or looking to make the transition, or perhaps are currently staying in there? Like, I got 5 more years in the game. Like, what final tidbits of information or advice would you give them?
So I've already given you the foundational piece of the vision. That's number one, because that allows you to have clarity. And clarity is power. When you know where you're going, man, you have so much power. You know where not to invest your time and energy because you got something out there that you got to fight for. So you have that foundational piece. That's obviously number one. If I wanted to, and I shared with you, throw it in the bag technique, another little small step that's going to help you. If I had to give one more, and it's one that I had, it was a wake-up call for me. I'll tell you a quick story. I was out in Arizona, played for the Cardinals, helped them reach the first Super Bowl of franchise history with another big underdog, Kurt Warner, who's everybody asks, is he just as good as the guy as he looks like? Yes, he is. He is the man. we're still friends today. I just saw him. His son was playing quarterback. They played Rutgers, so saw him there. Anyway, gave you the foundational piece. When I was there in Arizona, I had made it, and I was like, "Is this it?" And one of my mentors, I got lucky enough to be around, and it brought me back, into reading again, learning again. And it's something that I would leave with everybody. That said, you should always have a learn list. So you always should be reading, you always should be studying, you always should be around other people that are going to challenge you in some kind of way to help get you better. One of the biggest regrets I had was throughout college and most of my NFL career, I had stopped reading on things that I was interested in. I was so focused on who I was and my identity as a football player, which one of my good friends, Sean Stevenson, who was a trained therapist and a speaker, who I learned how, the art of speaking and storytelling from, he shared with me that, hey, you're not an athlete. That's not your identity. You are much more than that. That's just part of what you do. And I was like, man, it was a breakthrough for me. It sounds very simple, but a lot of times the breakthroughs happen when you become aware of something that you were never even aware of before. I wasn't aware of it, that I had lost touch, lost connection, all these things, these hobbies that I enjoyed. So through my mentor's advice of, reading and continue to learning, I started learning a second language. I started picking up hobbies that I always wanted to do, playing the piano, doing all these different things that allowed me to have a more enriched life that I had stopped doing. So if there's one piece of advice I want to give everybody out there, is to continue to build, your learn lists, whether that's for your profession or one of your hobbies. Never stop learning. My mentor put me on all these, readings and seminars and stuff. He always still says it, named Joe Polish, founder of Genius Network out in Arizona.
Yeah, great guy.
He says, education is never out for the pros. And even though you graduate, doesn't matter. Education is never out. I am never going to stop learning, finding new ways to enjoy life, finding new ways to sharpen my intellect, because that's what I was taught. And when you do that and you skill up, like they say, the analogy, when the tide comes in, that lifts all boats. That's part of what happens. It lifts you and all the people that are connected to you. Again, I just got very, very lucky to be put in the position where, I was around this foundationally, excellence, people that, thought bigger than just their profession, that wanted to continue to have a bigger impact no matter what their achievements were in the past. They want to make their future even better. So I was lucky to be around all these great people. And again, I don't take that for granted. I understand that I was, lucky to be put in this position where I was able to be around amazing people. Yeah, part of who I am is, I'm always curious to learn. So I was always drawn to that. But one of the things they taught me, like I said in the beginning, was that the great gifts are not fully complete unless they're shared. But, what good does it do if you have all this knowledge and wisdom and expertise, if you're not sharing it with those those around you and those coming up behind you? Yeah. And the last thing I'll say on that is this. We all have, a sports analogy here, in our arenas of life, our family, friends arena, positive relationships. We have arenas, and in the top, there's banners flying high of people that you wouldn't be here if it wasn't for them. A lot of giants that came before us that we stand on the shoulders of, that, the spotlights are there in our arenas of life. And man, when you're up there, you want to shine as bright as you can. One of the ways to do that is to share your best and highest practices. And that's what led me into what I do now, as a trainer, as a motivational speaker, as, an executive coach, to share these great lessons that allowed me and so many other people in my family to rise to that 1% and then to get to the top of the 1% of the 1%. Education, that's a way out of so many things. So continuing to learn, to continue to have a to learn list. At the beginning of the year, everybody's talking about the New Year's resolutions. What's on your what to learn list? for the month, for the year, for the quarter, whatever it is. That's the key.
I love it. Well, David, thank you so much for being a part of the show today. And I can't wait till I actually meet you in person, have you up on stage at our event. And I just appreciate the time that you took for myself and then also for our audience.
Absolutely. I enjoy what I do now. I'm never going to retire from it. I'm going to continue to learn. I practice what I preach, and I can't wait to be on stage and help people in different ways, remind them of their personal power, to give them key takeaways so they can enjoy their journey even more. So they can get to the top of that mountain, whatever they're climbing, even faster. It was great to be here with you today. Hope it served you guys.
Oh, did for sure. Thank you so much.